evening, everybody. This is Bill Graham coming to you live from Model Railroading Live, and the show is called Who is Big Bill Talking To tonight? It's March 9th, 2022, and we have a special guest tonight, and pretty good. Old home week, as you might imagine, here with this guest. Is pretty good. He's been with us for quite a while, and I'll introduce him in a bit. We got Jeff, the railroad enthusiast, is here. John Banachek is here. You Run Naked 4 is back in Ahoy there. Haven't seen you in a while. Brad Underwood is in the office here. Wag Workshop is here. Brad's Trains here. Who else? Indian Head Valley Railroad is here. Wilma, how are you, buddy? Who else do we got going on here? Late Night Model Railroad. Let's see if I can get this up there. There we go. Okay. Chris Lambert's in the house. Grandpa Rail. Grandpa Rail, did you get the tool? The thing that we sent that you won. Did you get this in the mail? Andy Crawford, evening, all my boys. And Andy Crawford's in the house. Yeah. So there we go. Anyway, we're going to have a good show tonight. Just want to give you a heads up on a few things that are going on in the Model Railroading Live. First of all, this is Model Railroading Live. I said that earlier. We're the #1 model railroading show in the world, in the universe, actually. Why? Because I said so. Basically, yeah. So, yeah. So this is Model Railroading Live, and we got a few things coming up. Also, before we get a public service announcement, this Sunday, the 13th of March, it's daylight savings time here on the East Coast and throughout the rest of the country. If you guys do that, we spring forward, so don't forget to set your clocks. Everybody's got a digital thing, so it automatically goes. Oh, Wigwam Workshop got his tool too. Good, great. So did Grandpa Rail. So anyway, public service announcement this Sunday, daylight savings time. Spring forward. Don't forget to, excuse me. Always tastes best the second time around. And then what else do we have going on? And next week we have a trifecta on Model Railroading Live. You guys will like this, so get your pens, get your notebooks ready, get your calendars up. Track Planner next Wednesday, the 16th of March. It's going to be part 3 of Bill Baronic, aka the Track Planner, and the show he's been doing on track planning and what is the track planner doing. So we're going to be, I think this is going to be the conclusion of this show. I have to find out, but this will be the part 3 of this show with Bill Baronic, the Track Planner. And that's this March 16th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then the next day, on Thursday, the 17th, we're going to have Johnny's Train Talk Show. Now, you know my spiel with this. I say this every time. Guys, you guys can be a participant in Johnny's Train Talk Show. Absolutely. You can be a part of it. He has a website. He has the thing when he goes live that you guys can go on. So if you want to bring and brag, by all means, bring something. If you don't, they have a discussion thing just like we have here. You can be a participant in that as well, and that's at 9 p.m. All shows on Model Railroading Live are at 9 p.m. And then we got Andy Crawford coming back, our good friend and contributor and all around nice guy, and he's going to be bringing back the Build Show, BUILD show, and that he's going to be working on a bridge. He's going to be working on a special bridge for his layout. So if you guys have been following the Railroad Empire, you'll know that they've been working on, Robert Holloman and Andy have been working on their thing. What's this? Randall Ellis said, that's a fun show, Bill. Love jumping on with those guys. Yes, very much so. Very much so. But if you've been watching the Railroad Empire show, you'll see Robert and Andy have been working and expanding on their layout and stuff like that. This is just an added addition from Andy's layout. He's starting this build project, and it's about this bridge that he's doing on his thing. So the first show is going to be live, and that's going to be on the 19th. That's a Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So without further ado, we have our special guest, and well, just let me bring him in. Come on in.
Hey, everybody.
There
I'm
he is.
back.
Barry Rosier, everybody. Barry Rosier, let me give you a little background on Barry for some of you guys that may have come late to this show here. But Barry has been a part, he's the original member of the YouTube Model Builders, along with John. When Model Man Mike, unfortunately had a personal incident in his life, he had to walk away from this, and Barry, myself, and John decided to pick it up. And Barry has been one of the cornerstones of YTMB when we were back in our infancy, and helped direct and IT a lot of stuff, and has gone on to bigger and better things. Right now, him and his lovely wife, they do a photograph. They have a photograph company that they do private photographs as well as portrait photographs, family photographs, and everything else in southern New Jersey. So if you guys looking for a professional photographer for whatever occasion, they're good to check them out. Dwight at Northern Star says, "My God, good old Barry,
Yeah,
welcome."
I remember Dwight.
Yeah. So Barry has also been, which we're going to talk about. Barry has been instrumental in working with the Amherst Railroad Society, and he's taken over for Miles, Hale, and Fran, and doing their clinics on Thursday and Friday this year. Yep, there it
Yep.
is.
Model Railroad University.
There it is. So he's been doing that, but we don't have him on that. We don't have him on tonight for that. We have him on because he's been doing some specialty work. And if you guys get a chance, so Barry, what's the name of your YouTube channel?
It's Barry's Bench.
Barry's Bench, his YouTube channel. You
Yes.
guys should check it out. Well, first and foremost, it's good to see you, my old friend. It's good to
It
have you back
certainly
on.
is, Bill. It's really good to be back.
I remember back in the days where we'd be doing this live and sweating our bullets here to see what and
Yeah.
how long we used to do it for 2 hours. Remember?
Oh, yeah. Johnny and I were talking about that before the show, before you got on. It's like, yeah, it's like 2 hours long. It's like, and then we'd be doing hangouts into the middle of the night.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I
Well, that
remember
that
being I
that's
was
when
on a hangout one time with Bud Ellis. He's a car modeler, but he was interested in our stuff because he wants to build a giant diorama with some trains on it for his model cars. We were on until sunrise.
well, that was Model Man Mike's forte because Model Man's wife was in the army and she was stationed in Seoul, Korea,
Yes.
and he would get on and with us, and it would be lunchtime for him, and it would be in the not the late evening, but 10, 11, 12 for us.
Yeah.
And we'd be on all night. And at the time, I didn't have the train room. I was used to sit out in the living room. And when it would got like 4 o'clock in the morning, I would say to the guys, listen, I got to go. And Mike would always go, listen, what are you going for? How about this setup? And he'd run some idea by me, and we'd go continue to talk, and then he'd see the sunrise on
Uh-huh.
my wall coming through the blinds and the curtains, and he'd go, "Bill, is that the sunrise?"
He
And I
used to
would
like
go,
to do that.
I said yes, and he
Yeah.
said, "Well, then my job is done. I'll see
Yep.
you guys
I
tomorrow."
remember.
And we would all leave like
He
at
did
six
that
o'clock.
more than once to us, Bill.
Yeah.
He really did.
Let's see. Mojave Model Railroad. Tina's in the house. Hey, Tina, how are you? She goes, Big Bill, Model Railroading Talk, and a glass of wine. What a great
There
night.
you
Now
go.
that's a true trifecta right there.
Yep.
There you go. So that's good. So Barry, you've been doing a lot of things. You've been keeping your hand in the model railroading, even though you've not been associated with us for quite a number of years.
Yeah.
But tonight we're going to be talking about working with cardboard. Is that correct?
Card stock, yes.
Cardstock. Yeah. So
Yes.
how did this happen?
Well, years ago, one of the Amherst shows I attended, I found this company called Clever Models, and they had some fascinating building kits. And literally, you just downloaded the file, printed it out on cardstock, and cut them out and glued it together. And they make super convincing models. So I started playing around with that a couple of years back. I figure I'm doing this ON30 pizza box layout. So it's an 18-inch square pizza box with a simple loop of track, and there'll be 3 O-scale buildings in the middle of the track. If I have room, there'll be a elevated subway track in the back and a city background in the lid. So I
Now,
picked
again, excuse me, what
yeah,
scale is this going to be in the 18 inch?
it's an O scale, but 30-inch narrow gauge, so ON30.
Oh, 130. Okay.
Yeah, so basically it's O scale that runs on HO track with 30-inch rail-to-rail spacing. So it became really popularized by Bachman,
Uh-huh.
and it really it's because there's not a lot of specific prototypes that used it. It's kind of like a big freelancer's paradise.
Right, right, right,
Most narrow gauge lines are 30-inch, or in Maine, almost all of them were 2-foot gauge.
right.
So there was a lot more commercial stuff made for them, but Bachman really opened up the ON30 market, and they're one of the prime suppliers in that market space. So everything else is kind of scratch built. I mean, I can use any O scale structure kit, but I can take an HO scale small steam engine, put a bigger cab on it, maybe extend the cab platform, and then it's perfectly usable as an a small ON30 engine. Same with like take an old Aether Hustler, put
Hmm.
a wooden box cab on it. I got a O scale box cab using an HO mechanism. There's so much you can do with it, and there's a lot of companies that are doing 3D print models and stuff for it, and it's been a fun adventure learning all this.
What was the genesis, the beginning of like saying, "Hey, let me give my shot at this. Let me see." Was it
Well,
something you saw, or is it
Mike
just
Denninger always was. Me and him were always battling back and forth who could do the weirdest thing in model railroading. So he was doing stuff with 0 So I said, okay, I'm going to go to what they call SN2, which is S scale 2-foot narrow gauge.
right?
So there was even less stuff made for that.
Sure, yeah.
So I bought one brass engine intending to build a layout of the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington Railroad in Maine, which was a Maine 2-footer. And then a lot of things happened in life, and I said, you know what? Maybe I'm going to go with O scale with ON30 because Mike showed me a lot of his stuff that he did, and I was like, I really liked it. And he had some small micro layouts that he had built.
Uh-huh.
Basically, loop a track with some scenery, maybe a couple of structures, and you can put a little Bachman Davenport or a Doodle Bug on there, or a Porter engine. Some of them, it depends on what the radius is. You can even get something as big as a 260 mogul. So I'm
Right.
like, that sounds really interesting. So, and the owner of a pizza shop near us, I went and got a couple boxes and laid my first loop of track, put like an 1.5 inch piece of foam in the box, and put a piece of foam board on top, cut out where the track goes, put the track in, and just test ran my Davenport gas mechanical with a couple of 18-foot box cars, and it
So
worked.
so this literally is going to be in a pizza box.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to say it's got all the labels on the side. I don't have it here. It's down in the garage, but it is an 18-inch square pizza box.
Okay,
And the
so
lid will be propped up, and it'll have this city backdrop on the lid. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet, but yep, it's going to be in a pizza box. So
uh,
I'll take it out,
okay.
put it on a table, plug in a power supply or DCC, and run the train.
So you're going to run power to and through the box itself.
Yep.
Are you going to reinforce the box so it doesn't
No,
get all?
it's because all the buildings are cardstock. They weigh nothing.
Oh,
And at best, I'll have either a small Porter steam engine or the gas 040 gas mechanical from Bachman, and a couple of 18-foot box cars or a flat car, and that's about it. So,
Yeah, my good friend Frank Delorio wants to know any anchovies on this.
oh God, no
I'm not.
pepperoni, brother,
Yeah,
pepperoni.
pepperoni, right? No.
Maybe sausage, but
Maybe
no
sausage.
fish. No
No
fish.
fish. No fish. I hear you. So now you wanted to put in the cardstock. Well, you didn't go with the normal plastic build.
No, because I've been heading towards everything I buy now is almost always a craftsman kit.
Right.
I buy stuff because I have a plan for the ON30 layout out in my garage. So I've been buying a few structures because I went hog wild with this giant plan for a double deck HO layout a bunch of years ago.
I
I
remember that.
had I had so much stuff, and I was like, it's going to take 6 people to run this thing. It's like, how much fun can I have with that much railroad? So
And do you honestly know 6 people? Because I certainly don't. I mean, Frank is the only other guy I know.
yeah,
And you,
well,
that's two.
well,
And John, that's three.
well, I got guys in my club that are nearby, but
Oh, see,
they're
I'm the friend to the friendless. So,
yeah.
so
So I decided, when I started really getting more interested in narrow gauge, because I really want to use everything I do there to get my MMR from the NMRA.
oh, so you're
So
working on that as well.
yeah, I haven't started. Well, I've done some towards like the volunteer
All
because I've
right.
done a bunch of clinics at meets and stuff. So I haven't done any structures or engines or anything like that yet, but I will be. So that kind of really got my interest in all that, and going to the Fine Scale Expo and learning a lot of the craftsman structure techniques. Really, everything led me in that direction.
Right.
So I had my old American Flyer layout, and when I tore it out a few years ago, because my mother-in-law moved in, so the plan was I would move everything out to the garage. So I decided it's time to put that one to bed, and then my ON30 is going to be on the upper deck, and the lower deck, I'm just going to do tabletops and build a simple HOT track layout that my wife, she drew me a napkin sketch of what she wants in her layout. So I said, I can do
Mhm.
that in T track. So that'll be nice. That way, if I want to take it to a train show, I just disconnect it, put it in totes, and take it to a show and set it up on some tables and have fun with it.
Right.
So,
Dwight at Northern Star wants to know what's Mike Dettinger doing these days. Mike is going to be a guest on our show pretty soon. We're working out a date with him, but
yeah,
he's
he's got some interesting stuff going on. He is starting to rehab right now one of his ON30 micro layouts.
right.
So
He's Mr. Animator.
yeah, DCC Reanimator. Yeah,
DCC Reanimator. Yes,
yeah,
he's semi-retired. Boxcar
yeah.
Jerry's in the house. Hey, Big Jerry, Chris Lambert.
I'm glad to see everybody in here.
Yeah. Our guest tonight, if you're coming in late, is Barry Rosier. Barry is a longtime original member of the YouTube Model Builders way back when we first got started. And we got him on tonight because he's doing an ON 30 scale layout in a pizza box, an actual pizza
Yep,
box. And he's doing for the background buildings or for the buildings and the structures. He stepped away from the plastic structure and he's doing cardstock. So
yep.
explain a little bit about that. I'd really like, because we saw it the other day and I was really thoroughly impressed that you did that.
Yeah, so I've done it several ways. With the buildings that I'm building for, because there's three of them on the pizza box. They're three kits. They're about $10 a piece from Clever Models. And you really should check out their website because they're pretty easy to build, and they make really beautiful looking structures. And the nice thing is, once you get it, if you know how to use something like Photoshop or GIMP, you can edit the PDF file and put your own signage on it, do your own graphics. Like I, not the camera shop, but the next building I'm building, the bakery. I moved the loading dock door from the rear to the side, so it would leave me just enough room in the edge of the layout to put a loading dock where I can park a boxcar there.
Well, we're gonna
And,
we're gonna in a minute or so we're gonna show this, and I want to
yeah.
emphasize. Yes, Jerry, a pizza box, actual pizza
Yes.
box from a pizzeria, an actual pizzeria. But
Yeah. It's amazing because I follow a few cardstock modeling groups on Facebook, and one place called the Micro Model Railroad Cartel on Facebook, and
uh,
that's micro layouts in Britain are the rage over there.
Yeah.
I mean, and most micro layouts are no bigger than 2 foot by 4 foot.
Right. Right.
You know.
But these buildings that we're about to watch, that you're going to show us, exhibit
Yeah.
to us, I have to tell you that, like I said earlier, to preface this is something that we in the HO scale hobby and even N scale can incorporate on our
Yeah.
layouts, because we could use these as buildings that are put back in the distance or up front. Andy Crawford says, so Barry, you need a pizza distributor industry on this layout and a pizza delivery box car.
Well, I am putting a bakery, but I the first kit I built was called Skippy's Hot Dogs from Clever Models. It has been renamed to Trackside Pizza.
There you go.
So my wife Doreen did the graphic for it. She also redid the graphic for the camera shop from Central Camera to the name you'll see when I bring
Yeah,
it out.
let's show these exquisite builds that you've made.
All right, so let me switch over cameras here.
This is really interesting stuff, and I really like it.
So let's talk about these little ones first.
Sure.
These 3 buildings here are all from a company called Custom Z-Scale. Mike and I ran into them at a Greenberg train show one time. So this is an N scale. It's a laser cut cardstock kit. You literally punch it out, fold it, and glue it together. You can see, probably, I don't know if you can see the glue tabs inside of there or not, but it's got tabs on the walls, and you just glue it down. And I use the toothpick for the post. And they're very simple, real easy to use. Now this one here, same company, this is Z-Scale. Because I'm planning to build one small diorama in Z-Scale in a cell phone box I put aside. So the surface will have this building and this building, which is the Queen Arms Railway Inn.
So wait, let's back this up.
Yeah.
Because you really went really fast. You're going to build that Z-Scale in an iPhone box?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Because there's enough room in the top half of it to put 2 of these buildings side by side and a little street. And in the very end, I'm going to build a flat that'll be an underground station for London. Then in the bottom, there's just enough room to put a tube tunnel in there. Yeah. And then I'm going to try and figure out how to do a cardboard model of a tube train. Because we rode it on the underground lot a few years ago when Dory and I were in England. So, but yeah, these kits from Custom Z-Scale are really neat. And so the little flags are just a cutout and you fold them in half. Everything's the same way. There's just tabs on everything. But the little chimney funnels are flat pieces that you have to roll around a toothpick and glue them together. There's some fiddly bits. So
John Arthur says, I was really intrigued with ON30 for a good while there. It didn't take the plunge, though, but William A. here in Richmond is building a layout with ON30.
There's a lot of ON30 groups on Facebook. There really is. I belong to a lot of them. And if you're from the Philadelphia region, every year they have the Harrisburg starting. It's called the Narrow Gauge Meet in Harrisburg. Mm-hmm. It's run by Al Judy and who's a big ON30 guy on Facebook, and Kevin McComber, who owns the Narrow Gauge Modeling Company. They are the go-to place to get narrow gauge stuff.
Really?
Yeah. So I bought a bunch of stuff from him. So let me show you this next one here. This one is HO scale. I designed this myself, so this is all scratch built. The textures on the siding and the stone and the wood decking are a mixture of stuff from what's called cgtextures.com and Clever Models. Because that's the nice thing. I said you buy a kit from them and it includes the stuff. You can use it then for whatever you want. Right. You're not limited to building that kit. You can just print a sheet of material if you need it. So the door frame you see there, and the rafter tails, and the window and the cross rafter on the end, all of the pieces were cut out of 110-pound white cardstock using my Cricut Explorer Air.
Mm-hmm.
So I drew them all up in a CAD program and learned through trial and error about the scaling issues doing it. And then I brought it into the Cricut design space and cut them out. It wiped out the window mullions, so I did without them. But basically, I had the external frame and the two sashes, and then I just glued them, the back sash, onto a piece of clear. Then I put a white, the upper sash above it, and then a second copy of the upper sash.
Right.
So you can actually see that the upper sash is stood out from the lower one, so it would look like the window could be opened.
Right, right.
So, and then this here, I just made the two door cross frames and the overall door frame, cut them out and glued them in place. So I didn't even have to put an opening in the wall, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of the stuff is just paper textures. The whole thing's on cereal box. I cut it all out of, I saved up a bunch of Honey Nut Cheerio boxes, drew the design and just throw it in my Cricut with a deep cut blade and cut it out. And then I used some wood bracing on the inside to hold everything together. So
Very nice.
That was prior to me doing these other buildings.
These were the practice buildings.
Yes. So let me, that thing's caught back there. Let me bring this out here. And where are you? Come here. And
lit up. Nice.
There we go. So this is Trackside Pizza, aka Skippy's Hot Dog Shop from Clever Models.
Right.
Even these pieces are included with the kit: air conditioner and a vent.
All paper stock.
All cardstock. All printed out. Most of the times I'm using 110-pound cardstock. I print it on a laser. It could be printed on an inkjet if your inkjet supports something that heavy. But you can also print it on like 65-pound cardstock, which is easier to obtain.
How is it for wet? Is that weathered like that, or did you do that?
This is just how it came out.
Right.
The only thing is some of the stuff here, like I put that with pan pastels. I mean, if you sprayed this with dull coat, you could use a little bit of wet weathering, but it's not usually recommended. I prefer to do pastels.
Right. Right.
So
I have a question from Albert Mason. Albert asks, do you have plans or blueprints for the scaling of everything is available for us to get somehow?
Well, the only one I have done is the plan for the freight station. And right now it's in AutoCAD. I don't have it available anywhere.
Right.
And I'm working on redesigning it to build it a different way. So maybe at some point I can make that available.
Right. But do these, can you buy these kits that you see?
As you see these, yes, you can.
Okay.
These are from Clever Models. Like I said, I've made a few modifications. Like here, there was no vent here. So what I did is I cut an opening in the wall and I got a little wooden fan grill with a fan blade behind it from Bar Mills, stained it up and put it on here. Same on the back. I put another grill from that same set on the back of this vent hood. And this door here, basically what I did is I cut an opening in the wall, and then I take an extra printout of the wall with the door, cut it slightly bigger, then glue it in from behind, and then use like markers or whatever to color the door opening to match the brick.
Right, right.
So I use like a warm gray marker for the door sill there. So that's slightly inset. Now, as you can see over here, this is even more inset. And I'll explain that when we get to looking over the big building there. So the sign here, what I did is I replaced the cardboard sign and made a styrene box and I put 40602 LEDs on the inside. And this one here, I put a flicker circuit on to look like the bulb's going bad. And then I lined the back of the sign with foil to make it look like metal. And even on the roof here, the original design had the roof flat at the top here. So I wanted the raised parapet look. So what I did is I glued 1/8 inch strip stock to the flat roof, and then a piece of small styrene on the side, and covered it with heavy duty aluminum foil, glued it on. Then I sprayed them with gray paint, and then weathered them with rust pan pastels.
Right.
And then that way the roof is removable should I need to get inside and access something.
Right. Frank Deloria wants to know, do you use sandpaper for texture?
Yeah, you could. Like on the roof, I could. This one has a very nice printed roof on it. Looks like tar paper roofing. So I didn't really need to, but that's the problem is if I put texture on there, it would kind of do away with the look of the rolled roofing. But I
Right.
could use my own rolled roofing methods and make my own there.
Right.
Let me see if I can lift this up where you guys can see inside. I even got my pizza guy in there. So this had a partial interior with the counter and the back wall. It's even got the old black and white tile floors.
Right.
So what I did is I got a Arista figure, painted him with his blue jeans on and his white T-shirt. He was supposed to be holding a crate. So what I did is I put a piece of wood or paper rather, just cut it out to match like the size of his body for an apron, put it over his head and glued it down.
Just
And then
just tilt it a little to the left. Yeah, there.
There
Now
you
we
go.
can see
There
it.
you go.
Yeah.
And
right.
so then what I did is I cut an oval out of paper and painted it with tan paint, flipped it over his hand so it looks like he's tossing a pie in there.
Nice. Very nice.
And the front wall here, it's essentially made up of multiple pieces. I printed out 2 copies of the framework and
Uh-huh.
glued them on the front and back of the clear acetate for the wall, which I had to provide. And then even this handle was an extra piece to give the handle a little bit of raised relief.
Right.
And the sign up here is only on the back piece. It's not on the front piece. So it looks like it's recessed a little bit.
Yes.
So that one that was a fun kit, but I was learning a lot of how to do this stuff. So that one took me a lot longer than it did to build the camera shop. I probably spent
yeah, I was just gonna ask you, how long did it take you to do that building?
I probably spent a year on this with the
Really?
little time I had. Yeah, it's all documented on my YouTube channel. You'll see there's the ON30 Pizza Box playlist, and it has all these videos I did of working on this. And I went over technique, how to cut it, and how he built a lot of things. So then we get to, because our photo studio is known as Brass Frog Photography. So my wife called this studio here Froggy Photos Inc.
Right.
This building is an actual model of Central Camera in Chicago. So, which recently had about a year and a half ago, had a giant fire. Luckily, the Art Deco sign was saved. So they had to redo the whole interior and everything. But this kit's got a lot more detail to it, and more detail that I've added too. So you can see here, all these windows are inset. The cornice on the top is an extra layer you glued on, even though it's printed on the wall. Let me see if I can lift this up a hair. There we go.
There you go.
So yeah, these cornices are all extra pieces glued on. So a trick is when you cut these out, you have to take some kind of colored pencil or marker to color the edges so the white of the paper doesn't show.
Ah.
So there's those 3 there. There's an inset window here, same as got the windowsill and the lintel above that are extra layers put on top. And all the signage is pre-printed on the kit. And on this side, there's another window in the back, and there's a door in the back that's recessed. Let's see if I can pull this around and show you. So that door is recessed in there as well. Now, to stiffen this kit, they do offer it's like a floor plate that you cut out and has flanges that bend up. And then there's one that's supposed to go in the middle as well, and then the roof becomes the third layer of support. I wanted this because I'm going to be throwing this thing around the pizza box and taking it with me to shows. I wanted it a little bit sturdier. So what I did is the interior has 3 pieces of foam board, one on the front wall or back wall and on the side walls, and then a partial piece here above the interior. And then what I did is after I put this on, I went and cut out the opening after I put the foam board on, and then the window pieces are just flat with sides that you bend up, and then the arch that you bend up, and the windowsill you bend up, and then I just slid them in from the front, then use markers and paint to touch up the edges.
Right,
And
right.
same on the side window here.
Chris Lambert says he loves the vintage Kodak sign on the side.
Yeah, that was fun. So the cornice up here has the kind of frame, and these pieces here is one piece. Then each of these recesses are separate pieces you glue in from behind to give it that 3-dimensional look.
Right, right. It really does stand out. It does.
Yeah, and then again on the roof, there's a hatch to get in onto the roof. There's some rusted up ducting. There's the big air conditioning system. So there's even a hatch on the wall there, like to get into the heating system below.
Right. John Arthur wants to know, what's a cricket?
So a cricket is a craft cutter. It's well, I have the newest one now, the Maker 3. It basically, you can send a design file to it, and it will cut out whatever shapes out of different materials. Like I can cut out vinyl and iron it on a T-shirt. I can cut shapes like this out of cardstock. I can cut with this model up to 2mm chipboard, which is heavy cardboard, and then 60 thousandths basswood. So technically, I could cut almost any building I want out of that thing.
Can you use Gator board on it in that machine?
I don't know because of the plastic resin that the surface is
Oh,
impregnated with.
right.
I mean, you can cut it with a craft knife,
Right.
but it may not cut very well in there. And
Oh,
it's not designed for anything thicker than 2mm, which is like 60 thousandths. So
right.
they don't make anything that small, I think. But
Right.
that's something I'll have to check into that because I mean I know you could put real thin foam board in there and do it. So
Mhm.
so on the sign here for this building, I did a lot of modification to it because you see the way this corner is all squared off,
Right.
and the signboard is angled. In the kit, the main part of the board was flat with a round curved edge here. And that wasn't how the prototype was built. So I modified the graphics to allow me to do that. My wife put all this in and our inception date of our studio. And then what I did is I built a styrene box, and this arm was out of styrene, and here was covered with clear styrene. And then I put red LED strips in here and a couple of white LED strips here. Then I took the 110-pound cardstock cutout of the box, just the front face, and cut out all these letters
By hand. Oh.
By hand. With an it took me a few weeks of playing with it because it would get my hands all crampy doing this curvy stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I didn't want to screw it up, so I really took my time.
Yeah.
And then like the little things like the center of the O's and the G's and stuff had to be glued in. So what I did is I put a thin sheet of clear styrene behind and then just glued them back in. Same here, stuff with canopy cement. And then came the real fun part. I cut out all these tubes here, all the way along here, and then reinforced the back of it with Scotch tape. And then this whole thing was just glued on top of the box and glued. This piece here, all this is one. This wrap around here is a separate piece. And then the actual cover was just printed, the same sign printed on paper and laid over and folded to cover everything.
Hmm.
And then the sign here, the Kodak sign, I made a small styrene box and put a loop of strip LED in there. Then took the printed cardstock frame and just wrapped it around the outside. Then my wife changed the graphic there to say Froggy Photo instead of Essential Camera, and I just cut that out and glued it on the box. They didn't really have any bracketry to mount it with, so what I did is I used a couple of pieces of brass rod. Then on here, I cut a couple squares out of cardstock, painted them gray, put a hole through them to act like the escutcheon plate where the tubing would mount to the wall. And then I fed the wires out the middle of the sign, just painted them black and put them right up under the sign into the back.
Yeah, Sparky 107 says that he does like how the sign stands out, and it does.
Yeah, I mean, if you really, other than saying Froggy Photos Incorporated, this is a stone cold replica of the neon sign on Central Camera. Just look up Central Camera in Chicago. You'll see signs of this. The only thing I didn't light up was on the side here and on this side, because that was way too small text to be able to be cutting out and reinforcing. So I took that little bit of liberty.
Okay. We forgive you for that.
Yeah. So it's hard. It's really hard to see in the very back, but there's an actual interior box in there in the back for the showroom. It's just a printed, 3 printed walls and a floor and a ceiling, and you just fold it into a box and it glues to the back. And this side was one piece, this side was one piece, and the frame for the door here was one piece. So the back of it was reinforced with clear styrene, which was glued to the 2 side pieces because there's a solid wall back there. And then the door frame was put on top of that, and then handles were cut out and glued on that. Then same thing here. I put styrene on the front, cut this out again, and glued a second layer of it over, so it gives you a look of thick door frame.
Right, another relief.
Yeah, and then I said so. In the top of each of these, and it's really hard to see, but there's a top hat LED, a little 5mm top hat.
Right.
And what I did is I cut a simple disc out of cardstock, painted it gold to make it look like a brass trim ring. And then on this side, I just drew up a simple 1/4 by 1/4 shelf space and folded it all up to make the shelf and glued it. And then got a bunch of camera and lens pictures off of Google Images, scaled them way down, put them in Microsoft Word, printed them out in a piece of cardstock, cut them out my X-Acto, and just glued them onto their canopy cement. Same with the camera bag there.
Could you hold that up so we could see that? Because it's being cut off by your name. Oh, yeah.
And then right here is a camera roller bag like we have in our studio for our gear. Then the back, you'll notice, is actually an O-scale field camera. It's an actual kit from Berkshire Valley Models. It's just a metal casting with 3 wooden legs. So I stained the legs, paint the camera, and glued it all together. So I have an actual scale. It looks, I think it's a 4x5 view camera in the back of that. So the next structure is based on this same building, but it's actually going to be a bakery. So haven't figured a name out yet. The name of the kit.
The bakery is going to be the same size.
Yeah, it's the same exact size, based on the same building structure. So let me pull that one up here. I'll show you what it looks like.
Well, when you're doing that, Wigwam says, I'm going to see if my Cameo 4 will cut Gatorboard. He says, my guess it will. Sparky says, it is funny looking at this model. I think, how many times have I walked into that store? So many like that with the front windows for display. Awesome build.
Cool. Thank you. So this is what one of the kits looks like when you buy it. So this is the front wall of the bakery. It's Who's Your Mama's Pies.
All right.
So as you can see here, this is the wall, but then I can take all these pieces like this, cut it out, add additional brick trim here. I have this piece and the little cornices there. Same for the windows here and here. And there's pieces just like on the other building to do this in a 3D model.
Right.
And then here's optional window to use instead of the ones here. You can use this with the window curtains and everything. And you can see how these sides are right here and here. They stick out.
Right.
So when you cut them out, you fold them up and they slide into the cutout, and it gives the window depth.
Uh-huh.
So let's show you another sheet. So here's the back wall that I've modified. I took the loading dock door off. Here's the actual cardboard cutout for the loading dock. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to make my own loading dock. I haven't decided whether it's going to be stone or wood.
Right.
And then here's some signage with it. The window pieces to fit out this window. Here's the other side of the building that'll go up against the camera store. There's a roof. And there's a lot to these kits. Now, this is the side I modified with the loading dock on the side. So that'll be on the right side of the layout. And then there'll be just room enough to put a small dock here where I could pull the box cars up to unload.
Very
And then
nice.
this is the original side. I just had my wife print them all out in case I change my mind.
There's always that possibility.
Yeah. So this is the bottom brace, and this is the top brace that you would put up farther on the building. I won't use them because I'm using foam board, so I don't need them. And here's a whole bunch of extra window details and everything. And here's the sign. So you can glue these back to back and hang them on a piece of brass tubing sticking out to actual for the sign. Don't know if I'm keeping this name or not.
Uh-huh.
And then we get into all the pieces for the front wall. So you can see here, this piece, you score it here, fold it forwards, score it on the back side, fold this back. So now the door comes up and goes across the window like this. Same here. This side folds up and that little flap on here folds back. So it gives you relief.
Right. It gives the door depth.
Yeah. And then here's the interior of it. So essentially, you fold this up. This comes up. That's your floor. There's your walls. Here's some little scenes for other windows. Here's a cabinetry for the back. There's a chair there, another chair there to sit in the window in the front. And in this window, there's actually seating in there on the inside.
Right.
So this will have an interesting, nice interior.
So, and how much was that whole thing to purchase?
Like $10.
$10 for all that.
Yeah,
That's not bad.
And then here's the framing. So this gets cut out. Yeah, don't go away on me. This gets cut out and glued on top of that to give it 3D relief.
Right. To make it raise up and pop at you.
I experimented with this a while. The first kit I ever did of theirs was a little relay shed. Standing seam metal relay shed, right?
Right.
All the standing seams were like that, where you had to cut it out and glue it on top of it. I almost shot myself trying to do that. I've gotten a lot better at it now because I've learned with these things like this, sometimes you don't want to cut it all the way out before you fold it. If it's a real thin edge, like the edge of a window, leave some extra on there, make your score and fold, and then flatten it out and trim it. Then it'll fold back into shape much easier. So, but the number one thing to learn about this, I mean, I have some simple tools, a couple steel rollers, lots of sharp X-Acto blades.
Yes.
And then I don't have it out. Oh, yeah, here it is. You need one of these little tools, a little ball end burnisher. And so use this to score the front or the back, depending upon which way you're folding. So if you're folding like that front wall, I would score it on the front side to lift it up. But if I want to fold this side back, I would score it on the back. So that's pretty much that. And I use Aleene's tacky glue, the occasional super glue, and some canopy glue for anything related to windows or anything that are clear.
That is, and that's all those buildings are going to go into an 18-inch pizza box.
Yep, and I was lucky. I printed out their footprints, and they all fit inside the track space.
Nice.
So yeah, I made sure because a lot of times they offer the footprints um, as part of the download you can get for some of their buildings, and if not, you just use the interior brace pieces they give you, and that gives you your footprint.
Yeah. Let's see. Chris Labbert says, "Don't forget, fellow hobbyists, build dollhouses. I bet you get pies and bread through their websites."
Yeah, that's true. That's a good idea because I can get any quarter-inch dollhouse accessories for stuff like that. So that's a good thought.
Indian Head Valley Railroad says, "I have dwelled a little bit in the cardstock building. Not as easy as it looks."
No, especially doing the recessed windows takes a little bit of getting used to. Doing the trim work around the doors and all that thin framing, that is a lot of work to learn. I mean, what I've learned, especially stuff like that where it's all glass, I just go ahead and make my folds, then I cut it after I put some clear styrene behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So that way I just cut a little bit extra through the edges to get the styrene back, but I put separate pieces between each fold. And that way it still has room to fold, but now I got a much more rigid piece to fold when I go to install it in the building. So
Right. John Arthur asks, he says, "So you can buy the files from Clever and then print it out and build the kits?"
yes, they used to sell pre-printed kits, and I think if you email them, ask for it, they'll do it for an extra charge. But yeah, essentially you download a PDF file, and you can print it on any inkjet printer that can handle the thicker cardstock. Like mine, I can do one page at a time. These
Right.
were all printed on a color laser because it's less susceptible. If I wanted to do a little bit of wet weathering, the laser printing on the surface would accept it a little bit better than using printed paper, or on an inkjet, because then the ink might run. So if you do this on an inkjet, it's recommended that once you're done, you dull coat it or
Right.
dull coat it as you go along. And
Right.
just when you're putting in clear windows with clear styrene, don't dull coat those pieces. And the
Yeah.
dull coat could be used on these too because it helps protect them from UV. But this is not going to be displayed anywhere where UV is a problem. So
Wig Workshop says, "Back when Clever first started, they offered a bunch of really great kits for free."
yeah, they still have a few free ones, and some of them are really nice. Every 300 kits they sell, they release another one for free.
Oh.
He has
Okay.
27 pages of kits, I think, or
Oh.
28 pages of kits, and there's 4 or 5 kits on a page.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
Adam Cruz mentions, he says, Simon Shed does have a lot of cardstock buildings.
yeah, cardstock. There's a bunch of UK companies that make cardstock buildings too, which are really nice. Like Kingsway is one of them, I think. And they have a whole series of tube buildings for the underground. They even have the full underground, like the tube set up in HO scale. They have all the stairways. They have the buildings on the surface, and some of the models, like I went to that station,
Right.
you know. So and they have a lot of transportation stuff like bus garages and everything, and a lot of row homes that look very similar to the little Z scale buildings I showed.
Right.
So
That's pretty cool. So,
but
hey,
go ahead.
with our remaining time, tell me a little what's going on with the Amherst clinic shows. I know you and Mike didn't do them this year, but I
Well,
understand that you'll be coming back next year.
yeah, so they were handed over to Scenic Express for this year,
Hmm.
and they expressed interest of not coming back, I'm assuming. And so we had discussions with the Amherst Railway side, got everything cleared up, and now that everybody's all met and they know who we are,
Right.
we've been given total access to run the pre-show clinics on Thursday and Friday. So
Right.
I'm really glad because we got to meet with the president of society, John Sacadoti,
Uh-huh.
and we
Nice
worked.
guy, isn't he?
Yes, yes. I had never met him before. We've emailed
Ah,
back and forth, but I think we needed to put faces to the names because we did this for a
sure,
couple of
sure.
years, and then I don't know what happened to cause them to look at Scenic Express, but they invited us in to teach, so we're like, okay, I mean that's fine. And then we went and talked to them. It's like, and where are we going forward with this? And they said, well, they're not interested in doing it again, so it's ours if we want it.
All right.
And
Well,
it,
people have to
it
know that the behind the scenes of doing this 2 day Thursday, Friday clinics that you do, and you hold it at the hotel, right?
yeah, it's Sheraton.
At the Sheridan, and stuff like that. There's a lot of work that's involved, getting the equipment there, getting the
Yep.
setups. So it's a bit daunting, you know. Like I know when Miles and Fran did it, as soon as the show ended in January, they would take a week off to get all the stuff back, you know,
Yeah.
inventory it, and then get ready to do it next year.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
we're not going to be involved in the clinics inside the show that's on Saturday and Sunday. We're
right,
just doing the Thursday and Friday. So it's a
right.
little bit less work for us there because that
Hmm.
was a major thing because that's where all the scenery supplies have to go to because they always had their big scenery clinic, etc. So that was going to be a lot of work.
Right now,
So
in the 2 day clinics that you're going to do Thursday and Friday, right? Now, is it gonna? Are you guys structurally pay wise still doing? If you buy into the 2 day clinics, you get the ticket to go to the Amherst show,
and breakfast and lunch.
breakfast and lunch at the
Yeah, I think
hotel.
the clinics they raised them a little bit this year. They were up to $107.
That's still not bad. So for $107, you get clinics from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. with the lunch break, and you supply
Yep.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner is on your own,
Yes.
correct? And
Yeah, it's
then
nice. They give us
and you
it's a
get two
good buffet
ticket. You get. I
Saturday
know,
and Sunday.
and you get the ticket for the show for Saturday and Sunday into the hall.
Yes.
Right. That's cool.
Yep. And it works out really nice. So a couple years back, we did the second year we did the show. We did an N scale T track section.
Right.
So we had a custom building designed for us by ITLA. I designed a bait shed that or fish shed that we had cut by Brian Bollinger at Best Trains. Art Fahey gave us free docks to use with that. Then Mike had scrap lumber on the house and he built 40 T-track modules. And Kato gave us the track. Scenic Express gave us a lot of scenery supplies. So everybody was brought in. Let's teach you how to build the wood kits, do your staining, your prep work, and all that. And then you get to learn the scenery on the module itself. The track was pre-laid. There's not much to laying the track on there. And then when they were done, they walked away with a single N-scale T-track module.
Hmm.
And we had made arrangements with a club at the show to display some of the modules. Like a dozen people took their modules to the show Friday night with us, and we set them up in the Northeast T-track club. So
Yeah, that was great.
yeah, it came out really nice, and we even had Dwarven Enterprises was just introducing their fiber optic system, so they came out to the during the class and they showed off their stuff by lighting up the people's T-track modules,
Nice. That's
and
even
then so they set up their lights at the show too, so everybody's structures were all lit up, and
right.
it was really nice, and we had 40 people attend that clinic, and
Hmm.
so that would logistically that was a lot of work. But this year we're going to try and limit it to maybe 12, 15 people to do it again. And we're going to look to see if we can get somebody like CMR Products to donate modules, or we have module drawings. So at worst case, Paul and Gary said they would build modules for us. So it wouldn't cost us anything. It would just be whatever the society pays for the lumber, and they would
Right.
build them for free. So
Right.
and then we'll reach out to whoever we want to, and see if we're willing to donate buildings. I know Walters gave us some kits before, so they may be interested in it, and we can reach out to a few people and get supplies. We're trying, the whole idea is to save whatever money we can, because for the society they're a nonprofit, so the
Right.
goal is to help make money for them in their endeavors.
Yeah,
So
no, absolutely. I was a participant in the clinics on Thursday and Friday. I know that it does take a lot to schedule that for people who work and can't get Thursday, Friday off. But if you can ever get a chance to do the clinic, I would strongly recommend that you do it. And it's not that the old saying is you can't teach an old dog new tricks,
yeah,
but you can gain something out of the clinics. But the best part, and this I advocate for this, the best part is that you're in the rooms in the clinics that you're taking with other fellow modelers.
yep,
So people that you normally would never rub shoulders with, you're rubbing shoulders with, and you're enjoying their company. And the clinician who's giving the clinic is, you're doing the feedback, back and forth, and you're asking a lot of questions. But the big thing too is that you get to have breakfast in the morning, and again, you're socializing and you're with
yep,
the other modelers, and lunch the other modelers, and you make some really good friendships and some really good insights on modeling. And some things you say, hey, well, I've done this, I've been there, done that, got that t-shirt. But then you go and you
yep.
take the clinic and you're like, wow, I never knew that. I can incorporate that in my layout. So there's always room to learn something you
Oh,
know
absolutely. I mean, and all of us love to share. I mean, we have a whole bunch of repeat people coming back to these clinics
Sure,
every year,
sure.
trying different things. We always try to toss up what we do. I mean,
Hmm.
this year, Mike and I did 4 clinics, all tech related stuff. I've updated my servo turnout controls. We redid JMRI, the layout wiring for DCC, and then Mike did a live DCC install, and we showed it on a webcam up on the monitor, or on the screen, so people could see it, and went back and forth between that and the presentation about it, discussing all the different pitfalls of doing your own decoder install, especially on a blue box like an Athearn engine, which was one of the ones we really wanted to go over, because there is some pitfalls to installing it in
Sure.
them, that they're relative to any kind of older engine where the brushes of the motor can contact the frame and get its
Right,
power that
right,
way. So we went over all those different things. So this year, we're going to try and cut back on the tech stuff for a while. I want to get a chance to get the pieces and learn layout command control and
right,
build a clinic of that.
right.
So that may be another year or two away.
All
But
right.
like I said, we're the first thing out of the box we're going to try and do is redo the N scale T track clinic, because that there becomes like a whole series unto itself. Where you get to do
Sure,
a
sure.
structure, you get to do scenery, and when you're done, you have something really nice that you can take home.
Right.
Especially if you're part of a T track club, you have another module you can use,
Mhm.
or if you want to join the T track club, or if you just want to build your own layout. I
Yeah,
mean,
sure.
T track
Absolutely.
for N scalers, I love T track. I mean, Mike and I take a layout to the NMRA booth at Greenberg shows in our area. And literally, it's 3 straight modules, 2 end caps, and they snap together. It takes like 15 minutes to set it up.
Right.
We even this year we ran the 2 loops on DCC, and then the whole thing was powered by a Jackery battery pack that had a 120-volt AC output. So
Nice.
we charged it up on Friday night, took it to the show, and it ran all weekend on battery power.
Great.
Totally portable, you know.
Well,
So
again, Barry, I want to thank you very much for joining us. It's been a while,
yes, it
and
has.
don't be a stranger. We have to get you back when you get that pizza box all put
Oh,
together.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah, and show us off so we know what it would look like. Because I guess some of the audience, the guys out there and the women, are thinking, pizza box. I wonder what that's going to look like with that big, massive building in there and the train running around. So we
Yeah,
got to
it's
have you back.
I want to see what it looks like too. I mean,
Yeah.
I put the footprint pieces down, and it fits where I want it to fit, but it's
Okay.
just got to there. obviously they're pretty tall, those two-story
Yeah,
buildings. So,
yeah, yeah.
and it's going to have this itty bitty little O scale engine that's like is going to be even the box cars are only 18-foot box cars are going to use or an 18-foot flat car. So they're going to look tiny compared to this, and they should because it's going to be narrow gauge. It's going to
Yeah.
be like an inner city terminal railroad of some kind. I haven't even come up with a name for the railroad itself yet, but I'm hoping I have room in the back to put the sub elevated subway track
Well, I
because
think you're pretty innovative, Barry.
it's funny. Clever Models just released a girder kit for doing that.
Right.
So I could technically print it all out of cardstock and see how it works. If it doesn't work, Nick at ITLA, which Mike and I have become friends with,
Nick
they
Massey.
yes, they have O scale or HO and N scale elevated subway tracks.
Yes, I know.
So
They do a very good job of it.
yeah, so I briefly talked to him at some point when he can find time, if I can find out if it'll fit, could he scale it up as a single track for me in O scale?
I'm sure he
So
could.
yeah, so it's just a matter of getting the time when I'm ready. I can give him a footprint to work in to see if because I'll probably print stuff out in the cardstock just as a mock-up to see how it would look, and then see if he
Right,
could do it for me. The
right.
biggest trouble, as you and I have discussed, Bill, is trying to find an O scale subway car that'll fit on there that doesn't cost a bloody arm and leg.
You got that right, my friend. You
And
got
it's
that
like
right.
I had my hands on the perfect car at a Greenberg show. It was a dummy unit, and it was $175. I'm
Yeah,
like,
and they're expensive.
I couldn't bring myself to do that.
Yeah, the
So
800, the HO scale New York City Transit subway cars are like for four of them is like 800 and something dollars.
yeah. So
I
what I
want it
did,
for my harbor scene so I can pull it
yeah,
off like it looks like it's going to the Brooklyn subway or coming from the Brooklyn subway. But
well, I did take a good side picture and an end picture of the car, and I've actually got drawings of the car from New York Metro. So I'm considering making a cardboard mock-up of the car, maybe putting real trucks and stuff under it.
ah,
And then for me, for the purpose of what this is for, that will be fine, you know. So,
mm,
and if it works, being as I'll design it up and print it in O scale, I can print them down scale for you to HO scale, Bill.
okay. Well,
So if it
we'll
works
talk about
out,
it.
I'll let you know. That's ways down the road yet.
There you go.
Yeah,
Well, thank you, Barry, for being on the show. Greatly
you're welcome.
appreciated. And we definitely got to have you back on as soon as that pizza box is done.
Yeah.
Uh, with with that said, we have come to the close of another um, put it in the book more or less of who's Big Bill talking to on Model Railroad and Live. Just to give you guys a heads up for next week, on the 16th of March, we're going to have the Bill Baronic, aka the track planner, on doing part 3 of what is the track planner working on, and we're going to continue in that series. I don't know if this will be the last part. I'll have to find out. But it has the first 2 shows have been very interesting, and we got a good response. Over 700 views on the recorded ones, so people are watching them, and great thank you for that. And then on the 17th of March at we'll have Johnny's Train Talk show, and that's where you guys in the community can be a part of the show by being on it if you have a webcam and a good video, which is the same in one. And I'm just repeating myself because I don't know what I'm talking about. Baroom. Anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. You guys can be a part of the show. John has a link in it where you can come on. Like I said, if you have a good computer hookup, internet, and a good webcam, you can be on the show. You can bring and brag. If not, you can do the same thing we have here with the comments. You can be a part of the Q&A and submit any questions, any comments you want, as long as it's regarding to model railroading. And on the 19th that's a Saturday, is going to be Andy's Bridge session. It's Andy Crawford will be doing a build show in regards to the bridge that he's building. if you guys have been watching the Railroad Empire, you've noticed that Robert Holloman and Andy Crawford have been sharing their layout and what they're doing on their layout. And this is an extension of what Andy has been doing and what he's about to do in building this bridge on his layout. That's going to be Saturday at 9 p.m. on the 19th. All shows on Model Railroading Live are at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That will be a live show with Andy. It will be an hour long. And so we hope, and as a public service announcement, this Sunday, the 13th, it will be daylight savings time. You spring forward. All clocks go ahead. So you guys, don't forget to set your clocks, at least your wind-up watches, at least, and stuff like that. Anyway, it's been really nice to be back on the show. Hopefully, we're going to get more guests on Who's Big Bill Talking To. And if anybody has any suggestions for guests, please email me at South Brooklyn, SOUTHBKLYN @gmail.com. I'll be more than happy to follow up and reach out to anybody. If there's anybody you'd like to see on Who's Big Bill Talking To, please reach out to me. And as always, be well, be safe, but most of all, be blessed. And we'll see you guys on the radio.